Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and welcome to As-Siraat Al-Mustaqeem. This is the first video on this channel. I'll tell you a little bit about me. My name is Al-Abdeen and I'm a Pakistani who likes to refute Christians attacking Islam. This is the point of the channel. I'll be refuting Christians and other faith arguments on Islam every week, so make sure to stay in tune for that. Anyway, I've wasted enough of your time already. Let's just get into it. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we'll be refuting Testify Apologetics video. What really motivated Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam using the Quran, the Sunnah, and even his own Bible.
Quran 4:3 it says, "And if you fear that you will not deal justly with orphan girls, then marry those that please you of other women, 2 or 3 or 4. Muslim men are allowed to marry up to 4 wives. Allah has decreed this in the Quran for all of Allah's followers, except Muhammad, who we are told in Sahih al-Bukhari, the Prophet used to go around have sexual relations with all his wives in one night, and he had 9 wives. Is this allowed? Yes. Muhammad's extra wives are explicitly permitted in Quran 33:50. O Prophet, we have made lawful for you your wives to whom you have paid their dowries, as well as those in your possession, whom Allah has granted you, and the daughters of your paternal uncles and aunts, and the daughters of your maternal uncles and aunts, who have immigrated like you. Also a believing woman who offers herself to the Prophet, if he is interested in marrying her, this is exclusively for you, not for the rest of the believers. The Quran allows Muhammad to have more wives than everyone else. On a totally unrelated note, the Quran, which you remember allows Muhammad to have more wives than everyone else, was revealed to Muhammad. But that's a coincidence. Muhammad just wants to obey the word of Allah, that only he can hear. What other possible motivation could Muhammad have for saying that Allah allows him to marry enough wives so that he can have sex 9 times every night?
To be honest, this is like the part about Islam that always struck me as wrong. This is like very filthy in my opinion. Because how could somebody have so many wives and treat them all equally? It just doesn't make sense in my opinion. How can a prophet of God do that? Not to mention how the Quran messes up so many other prophets. For example, Solomon. In Surah Muluk, verse 11, it says, and I quote, "He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines, and his wives led him astray." How can a prophet of God have so many wives? How can he even be led astray? This is an inherent contradiction with the theology of the religion. Oh, oh no. So first of all, he wrote the wrong verse. He said Surah An-Nisa, verse 3, but he wrote verse 2. So I was slightly confused, but whatever. Let's just entertain this argument. If Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did only marry for sexual relations, he would have married earlier. Why did he wait until 25 for his first marriage? Why would he wait until after his first wife's death to marry again? Why did he just marry while he had Khadija? Not to mention, besides Khadija and Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, all the rest were a necessity. In this video, I'll be using one from the Al-Mu'mineen as an example for how they were a necessity. The rest will be in the description as the Google Doc. The life of the Prophet ﷺ, Javaria, Rizidallah Anhu, belonged to the very powerful clan of Bani Mustaqeem. The entire clan was the enemy of Islam from the start and finally suppressed military reaction. When the Prophet ﷺ married Javaria, they also released all the prisoners, saying they could not keep the Prophet's relatives in captivity. Due to this marriage, the whole of the clan of Bani Mustalik accepted Islam. If he did not marry Javaria, his message would not have reached more people.
Actually, Muhammad had a total of 11 wives during his life. 9 was just the most he had at one time. One of Muhammad's wives was Sada bin Sama, who married the Prophet when she was 50 years old. A few years later, Muhammad married another wife, Aisha. Many places in the Hadith confirm the following account from Sahih al-Bukhari. Narrated Aisha, the Prophet married her when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old, and then she remained with him for 9 years. Other Hadith explain that when Muhammad intended to divorce Sada, his 50-year-old wife, she gave up her nightly visit so that he could visit Aisha twice, every night. But what is Muhammad's motivation for taking a preteen wife? Thankfully, Sahih al-Bukhari tells us where the idea came from. Narrated Aisha, the Prophet said to her, "You have been shown to me twice in my dream. I saw you pictured on a piece of silk, and someone said to me, 'This is your wife.' When I uncovered the picture, I saw that it was yours. I said, 'If this is from Allah, it will be done.'" Allah revealed that Muhammad should marry a preteen girl. On a totally unrelated note, this revelation, which you'll remember allows Muhammad to marry a preteen girl, was revealed to Muhammad. But that's a coincidence. Muhammad just wants to obey the word of Allah, that only he can hear. What other possible motivation could Muhammad have for saying that Allah allowed him to marry a preteen girl?
I'm not going to refute a non-argument. However, if you want to view a repetition of this is on YouTube by Better Think Muslim, you can search it up. It's probably there somewhere. However, let's do a talk about Rebecca from the Bible. The age of Rebecca when she was married to Isaac is not actually found anywhere in the Bible. However, most biblical texts say that she was around like 3 to 10 years when she was married, maybe even 14 or in her teens. So 40-year-old Isaac, not a good look at all considering Aisha.
Muhammad had the great privilege of giving his first cousin, Zainab bint Jahsh, to his adopted son, Zayd bin Muhammad, as his wife. How wonderful. Zainab bint Jahsh was a beautiful young woman. According to the history of Al-Tabari, one of Islam's most trusted histories of Muhammad's life, after they were married, Muhammad accidentally sees Zainab at home when she had dressed in haste. She jumps to her feet and runs to the door, but Muhammad turns away and will not come inside. Hearing of this later, Zayd offers to separate from his wife so that Zainab could be Muhammad's sixth wife. Muhammad refuses. She's his daughter-in-law and his first cousin. It's incest. But then Muhammad, overwhelmed by the power of revelation, is given permission to marry the wife of his adopted son. How? Allah provides. By abolishing adoption. At exactly that moment. It's recorded in Quran 33:37-38. So when Zayd had lost interest in his wife, we gave her to you in marriage, so that there would be no blame on the believers for marrying the ex-wives of their adopted adopted sons after their divorce, and Allah's command is totally binding. There is no blame on the Prophet for doing what Allah has ordained for him. The Quran allows Muhammad to marry the beautiful ex-wife of his adopted son. On a totally unrelated note, the Quran, which you remember, allows Muhammad to marry the beautiful ex-wife of his adopted son, was revealed to Muhammad. But that's just a coincidence. Muhammad just wants to obey the word of Allah that only he can hear. What other possible motivation could Muhammad have for saying that Allah allows him to marry the beautiful ex-wife of his adopted son?
I honestly don't see what the argument is here, but here we are. So the Prophet married the ex-wife of his adopted son, i.e. the son not related to him. That is completely fine. For subjective moral standards, probably not, but your standards do not matter. Because marriage is focusing for more parties. It's not like the Prophet took her without Zed knowing. As the old say, they're consenting adults. Why care?
Sunan an-Nasa'i 39:59, we're told the following. It was narrated from Anas that the Messenger of Allah had a female slave with whom he had intercourse, but Aisha and Hafsa would not leave him alone until he said that she was forbidden for him. Muhammad agreed not to have sex with the slave girl married Copt. You might think that this is good and honorable, but Allah disagrees. Allah's words are recorded in Quran 66:1-3. O Prophet, why do you prohibit yourself from what Allah has made lawful to you, seeking to please your wives? And Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. The Quran allows Muhammad to have sex with his slave. On a totally unrelated note, the Quran, which you remember, allows Muhammad to have sex with his slave, was revealed to Muhammad. But that's a coincidence. Muhammad just wants to obey the word of Allah that only he can hear. What other possible motivation could Muhammad have for saying that Allah permits him to have sex with his slave?
Believe it or not, this is one of the better arguments, but according to Ibn Kathir, this verse is not about this hadith, but rather another one by Imam Bukhari. Al-Bukhari 6691. Ubayd bin Umair said that he heard Aisha claiming that Allah's Messenger ﷺ is to stay for a period in the house of Zainab bin Jash and drink honey in her house. She said, Hafsa and I decided that when the Prophet entered upon either of us, we would say, I smell malafir on you. Have you eaten malafir? When he entered upon one of us, she said that to him. He replied that, no, but I drank honey in the house of Zainab bin Jash, and I will never drink it again. Then Quran 6:1-2 were revealed. So, like, 2/3 of his verses were about the wrong argument. By the way, Imam Nisai, who testifies quoting here, he himself wrote in Sunan al-Kubra after an incident by Aisha. This hadith has a very good chain of narration and it is sahih. The hadith of Aisha is about honey, but it's the exact deed that Ibn Kathir is referencing. This excerpt is taken from Sunan Nisai al-Kubra 5584. You will see from this incident, which is reported with a string of stronger narration, and in private books of hadith, regularly contradicts the incident which testifier is referring to. Also, this incident comes from first-hand source with Aisha and then the Sahabi. Therefore, many scholars have concluded that the narration of Bukhari correctly depicts this incident. Let's also take an example of a scholar. Al-Qurtubi mentioned the story of Aisha and honey followed by narrations which include the save that testified and on about. Then he writes, the most correct of these opinions is the first of them, and the weaker of them are the others. The first opinion that he wrote was the story of Aisha radiallahu anha. This is from Tafsir al-Quburti 66.66.1. 18/179.
Muhammad, in his wisdom, had to judge over disputes amongst his followers. The Tafsir of Ibn Kathir recounts, we, the people of Quraysh, used to have sexual intercourse with our wives from the back. When we migrated to Al-Madinah and married some Ansari women, we wanted to do the same with them. They disliked it and made a big issue out of it. Thankfully, Allah stepped in. From eternity past, Allah knew that he would need to instruct his followers on what sexual positions they are allowed. Allah's words are recorded in Quran 2:2-3. Your wives are like farmland for you, so approach them as you please, and send forth something good for yourselves. Be mindful of Allah, and know that you will meet him, and give good news to the believers. The Quran allows Muhammad and all of Muhammad's male followers to have safe vaginal sex with their wives in whatever position they like, because they're farmland. On a totally unrelated note, the Quran, which you remember, allows Muhammad to have sex with his 9 wives in whatever position he likes, was revealed to Muhammad. But that's a coincidence. Muhammad just wants to obey the word of Allah that only he can hear. What other possible motivation could Muhammad have for saying that Allah permits him to have sex with his 9 wives in whatever position he likes?
And how is this a problem? The Bible doesn't have any ruling for sex positions, meaning you can have any position you want. It's the same as the Quran, only that it confirms it. It's actually backfiring because it proves that the Quran covers all aspects of life like it claims. I love how he thinks that this means that the woman just has to take foot and just has to have sex. If she doesn't want to have sex, she can just refuse it. Same with a position. She doesn't want a position, she can refuse to have sex altogether. That's literally the solution. Also, Mr. Testify, you left out a pretty important part of the ayah, almost like you knew it destroyed your argument. Anyway, that's the end of this invitation. I'm going to keep this outro really short. If you liked the video, comment, like, and subscribe. If you did not, whatever. I'll try to make the next one better. I'm sorry for this video being a little bit low effort, but I really tried. I put a lot of research into this. I'm really new to this editing style, so let me know what works, what doesn't. I'll try to update the captions as well. Sorry if some are inaccurate. That's on me. Anyway, Allah Hafiz.